Check me out on Instagram or at YouTube today, and you will see that I am wearing the brand new 9/11 Never Forget pin, developed by Steven Singer, the jeweler. We've been selling pins like this for, I think the number is 18 of the last 20 years, and we have raised in excess of $630,000, and we've done it $10 at a time. All of the money, all of the profits going to 9/11 related charities. And we've announced this is it. This is the final year that we will do it. But the brand new pin is really a winner and perfect lead in for the conversation that I'm about to have. Did you see the headline recently that said nearly 1,800 Americans directly impacted by the events of September 11 are opposing President Biden's participation in the commemorative events a month from now? Why is that the case? Brett Eagleson is joining me now to discuss. He lost his father, Bruce, in the 9/11 attacks. Hey, let's begin by you telling me about your dad.
Thank you for having me. My dad was on the 17th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. He worked for the company called Westfield, which owned and operated malls all over the world, rather. And Westfield had recently signed a 99-year lease for the retail space that was beneath the World Trade Center towers, which is known as Fulton Station. And if you're familiar with the area, it's the area known as the Oculus, which occupies that space now. It's still a Westfield branded mall. And he was there on a temporary assignment. His portfolio included malls all up and down the East Coast. And he was based out of Connecticut, where we live. But he was commuting into Manhattan Monday through Thursdays. And the project was supposed to have been over at that point, but as with all projects, it was over the allotted timeline. So unfortunately, he was there that day, and he spoke to my brother after both planes had hit. So both planes had hit the towers. My oldest brother, Kyle, had called him to see that he was okay. He assured us that he was fine and safe and that he had survived the impacts. And he told my brother that he was going to stay behind to help with the coordination of the evacuation efforts. And the last that we were able to piece together was he was last seen in the lobby, and a former colleague of his told us that he was going to go back up the stairs, ascend to the 17th floor to grab portable two-way radios. And he was going to use the radios to bring down to the lobby where the FDNY had a mobile command post set up. Because if anybody remembers anything, the news that came out of that day was communication was atrocious. The FDNY and NYPD couldn't communicate with each other from the lobby to the 50th. I recognized that and knew, as one of the mall managers there, that they had these portable two-way walkie-talkie radios that they used to communicate with maintenance staff. So he went back up to grab the radios, and that was the last that we were able to locate. His whereabouts was somewhere along that path from the lobby back up the stairs to grab the radios is when the building fell on him.
Brett, the photograph that I'm looking at you with your dad on a beach, you're a young guy. How old were you on September 11?
Yeah, that's one of the last photographs, of the most recent ones that we have. That was on a family vacation in February of 2001. Turned 15 in February. So on 9/11, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was 15, about 15 and a half, actually.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two older brothers, so I'm the youngest of three boys.
Wow, really brings home what happened 20 years ago, almost right where we are. So why don't you want President Biden participating in any of the commemorative events that are about to unfold?
Well, to be fair and to be clear, it doesn't matter what president it was that is to be occupying the Oval Office. We would have had the same sentiment. There are about 1,800, and I think the list is growing by the day as the signature makes its ways, as the statement makes its way around through the 9/11 community. There's just this sense of frustration, a sense of abandonment. There are still open wounds. It's been 20 years, and the families do not yet have closure. We do not have justice. We have been promised answers from administration after administration on both sides of the aisle, starting from Bush, through Obama, through Trump, and now Biden. And it's the 20-year anniversary, and the families are at their wits' end. And really, it's just about using the leverage of this anniversary to raise our profile of the issue, to let Americans know, to let the world know what hell our government has put us through. And there is credible evidence. The government doesn't deny that it exists. There is credible evidence that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia supported and facilitated the 9/11 plot. And I'll point to just one of the most starkest pieces of evidence that we have is that former FBI special agent Stephen Moore, who led up one of the country's largest 9/11 investigations, he reported to Bob Mueller on a weekly basis. He was in briefings with President Bush. At one point, he had 350 FBI agents reporting up through him. He has gone on record in a sworn affidavit under oath, which is filed in court, and he has gone on record to say, were it not for the Saudi support network that was in place prior to 9/11, 9/11 would have had a 0% chance of success. And it's that type of stuff that our government knows about. Our government has hundreds of documents, if not thousands of documents of evidence involving the FBI's investigation into Saudi Arabia, but they won't give it to us because they call it a state secret, or they call it too, quite frankly, because what is too sensitive to give the families? What is too sensitive for Americans to know? I mean, 9/11 changed the world for not just Americans, but for everyone. And don't you think 20 years later, we should have a right to know any investigative files that our government possesses?
But Brett, why do you think that's the case? I have been involved as an advocate using my platforms in the past to win the release of the 28 pages. There's a Philadelphia-based lawyer. His name is Sean Carter. Sean was, for a time period, a frequent guest on my program on radio and television talking about this issue. And I remember wondering, because you're right, it began with W, it carried through Obama, then into Trump, and now into the Biden administration. So it's not a political thing. It's not an ideological thing. Presidents of all stripes have refused to reveal all the information about Saudi Arabia. You surely have come to some hypothesis as to why you think that's the case.
I think it's a combination of a couple different elements. One is we have to appreciate the power of the Saudi lobby. The Saudi lobby has tentacles that run far deeper than anyone in America probably realizes. They have the most powerful lobbyist firms, probably some of the best lawyers in the world representing them. And oftentimes, this is an angle that I would love to get more attention, is who are the American firms that are making literally millions of dollars off representing Saudi Arabian interests here in the United States? Michael Kellogg of Kellogg and Hanson out of DC has for years milked the Saudis out of millions of dollars representing them in every lawsuit. They represent the Saudis against the lawsuit for Khashoggi. They represent the Saudis for the lawsuits of all the Pensacola murders that happened a few years ago. They represent the Saudis against us in our lawsuit for 9/11. And I would love to see someone dig into that. So one, I think it's the Saudi lobby. Two, you have to look at on a state to state level. We enjoy a very cozy relationship with the kingdom. They stabilize world oil markets, which of course is good for the economy. So when the price of oil goes way up, the Saudis always agree to increase supply to bring that price down. They buy billions of dollars of weapons a year. Look, Trump said it best himself when he said, "Oh, our weapons sales business is too important to care to give a shit about Khashoggi." So, he said it himself. I mean, he was being brutally honest, saying that they buy billions of dollars of United States manufactured weapons. They buy our sovereign debt. And then the third component of this is the intelligence failures that led up to 9/11. I think a lot of the reason that these documents are buried under lock and key is quite simply embarrassment. The United States government doesn't want to admit that the CIA screwed up. It was well documented that the CIA was tracking these individuals from Malaysia. They followed them here to the United States. They never told the FBI until about a month before 9/11 happened. And at that point, it was too late. So I think it's a
But see,
combination of all three of those
it could be.
factors.
Okay, it could be. But when I hear the third of those factors and I think of Donald Trump, that seems like the precise sort of story he would love to have blown up and embarrassed the bureaucracy that had missed signs of September 11. Something else I need to get into, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but what I remember
Sure.
about the 28 pages, when the 28 pages were being kept from the American people, what I remember is that there were questions raised about, in particular, two hijackers. They'd come to Southern California. It seemed like they'd had direct or indirect communication with someone in the consulate, as I remember, in Los Angeles, and two guys who had no network and couldn't speak the language all of a sudden seemed to be living rather comfortably and with the connections that you wouldn't expect new arrivals to have. And that raised a question. I'm giving the simplistic version here. You correct me where I'm wrong, but that raised the question as to whether the consulate and indeed the senior levels of the Saudi government had provided them with safe passage, maybe knowing what they were up to. First of all, how's that for an encapsulation of the 28 pages and why we needed to see them? And secondly, what didn't we get from the 28 pages?
Well, that's a really good summary. And thank you, because oftentimes I have a hard time boiling it down because there's just so much I can go into. But yeah, I think you have it spot on. But the point where I want to make is that the 28 pages, keep in mind that those were based on investigations that were only done up until about 2004, 2005. Now, we didn't get the 28 pages until 2016, but the pages were written in 04 and 05. What we're now talking about is a secret FBI investigation that originated in 2006 and went for an entire dozen years or 10 years rather, into 2016. So and that's called Operation Encore. And New York Times ProPublica did an expose on this operation. And some of the agents have come forward. They're now working for us. They've retired. And they said, yeah, we are the Encore agents. Here's what we did. We took the leads that the 28 pages presented, and we followed up on those leads for a dozen years. And that's the information, Michael, that we're looking for. That's the information that we want from our government, is to say, okay, what did Encore uncover? And what we're learning through FOIA requests, and we're piecing together the Operation Encore investigation, is that you were exactly right. And we were right all along. It's that the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C. had a mid-level official known as Mossad al-Jarrah, who sat 3 doors down from Prince Bandar. He was directing these underlings, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but there were 2 people under him named Omar el-Bayoumi and Fayed al-Thumairi. Thumairi and Bayoumi were known Saudi operatives. They were Saudi agents. They were being given direction from the Washington Saudi consulate from this guy Mossad al-Jarrah. And that's that's the crux of our lawsuit, is that no, it wasn't this rogue element. It wasn't 15 out of the 19 hijackers were Saudis. It was more than that. There was an official decree or official hierarchy of command stemming within the Saudi Arabian embassy in Washington to Thumairi and Bayoumi, to the hijackers themselves. And this is what I was talking about when I said Stephen Moore had said, that the FBI special agent had said, it's the Saudi support network that was here and available in the United States that allowed these hijackers to be successful. Because as you so rightly put it, I have been told by former intelligence officials that when they arrived in Los Angeles, they wouldn't even be able to find their way out of the airport because they don't know what an exit sign means. They wouldn't know how to get a cab. They wouldn't know how to speak English. They had.
Brett, I need to make sure I get to this in our limited time. Jen Psaki was asked about this in a White House briefing last week. I'm paraphrasing, but she seemed to say that the requests that have been made are being provided consideration now. I can't imagine that something will come from that in the next 30 days. So what is it you are asking of President Biden between now and September 11? And if you don't get it, how will he be received at, say, Ground Zero or Shanksville or the Pentagon?
We're asking him to engage with us. Help us, Mr. President. You know, I said it the other night on your show that he has a historic opportunity to finally, for once and for all, stand up with the courage and do the right thing. Get our backs. We know you're the scrappy kid from Pennsylvania that likes to get into fights. Help us, because this is the biggest fight of our lives. We need you in our corner. And we would love to engage with you. You know, Jen Psaki said that the administration was considering certain actions and it's not going to be ready before the 9/11 anniversary. That is such a tone-deaf response. That is exactly why we're so frustrated, because we've been told for 20 years that they're looking into it and that they're going to think about it and they're going to review it. So for Jen Psaki to say that, oh, we're going to think about giving you something, it's just, to me, it's a total tone-deaf experience. It's a totally just, it missed the mark entirely. So we're asking the president to engage with us, show us some good faith. Like if you need some additional time, pick up the phone, call any one of us. We've tried numerous times through senators, through House members, through letters. We've had so many backdoor channel communications to the administration, but they just refuse to engage with us. And you know, I think the ask is just show us that you're genuinely interested in helping us, because we've been screwed by Trump, we've been screwed by others, and we're at our wits' end.
Final quick question, if you can. You were 15 and a half when you lost your father on September 11. What was the light bulb moment? When were you, as a young man, all of a sudden in the loop on this issue and decided that you would become an advocate?
It wasn't until well later until about 6 years ago. I was focused on all the things a 15 and 16-year-old kid was focused on.
Sure.
I was in high school. I was focused on getting into college and sports and girls and everything else and friends. And then it was after I graduated college that I had a job, that I had some time to just kind of relax and go, okay, I did it. I have a job. I went through college. I graduated. I did all the things that, you know, you're supposed to do. And I started looking into it more and more. And I became aware of this lawsuit. And JASTA at the time was about to be passed. And I knew that they were fighting to have the special law created. And I became really interested in it. And I never bought the narrative that 19 people with no knowledge of English, no money, no driver's licenses, no experience on how to fly a plane, no Western culture.
Yeah.
How the hell do they do it without any help? I mean, it was
Right.
the most consequential attack in the United States history. I mean, they hit the most fortified building in the world, the Pentagon. How
Yeah,
did these
I know.
guys do this with zero help? And that was the light bulb that went off in me.
Brett, I wish you all good things. I hope you're successful. Thank you for coming on my program.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.